having where systems, I think, come into play with creativity is that there should be mechanisms to capture the creative moments for the creative people or for anybody. For me, when I have an idea, that then it puts into a predictable place that when I'm back in my process mode, I haven't lost the idea.
Hey, welcome to 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. We're a father-son leadership podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems. And, you know, as I'm sitting here saying the intro, not reading it, used to read it, saying it, I was looking at all the little quick access tabs on my browser because the tool we use, folks, we'll give a shout out to Riverside. We've been using it for a couple of years, and we're pretty happy with what they do and how they do it. So this is in a web browser. This isn't Zoom or Teams or one of the other gazillion. What's the other one? StreamYard's another big one. But that means my web browser is open, and I'm looking up there, and it's like, all right, what the hell's that? Oh, wow, I haven't been on there in a while. Yeah. Well, the bookmarks, the quick access bookmarks, like speaker dashboard. What the hell is speaker dashboard? I'm looking at
mine. I think I use 4 of my 10. So yeah, there's a good lesson. We'll jump ahead to what did you learn, and we'll go out there and clear out your bookmarks because yeah,
I got one. You're
gonna ruin everyone's day with that, Dad.
1, 2, 3, 4. 4 I can out of the 6 or 8 I see on here that I actually do use. So it's not too bad. I don't know.
Gotta clean it up.
Yeah. You know, computer clutter. I was on a call with a good friend of mine this morning. Well, Craig Andrews, former guest and a friend of ours, he was sharing his screen and the question was, how much RAM do you have on that computer? Because he literally had 47 tabs open.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's indicative of what the desk looks like. So
yeah, and I was going to say, Craig, having talked with him a few times on the show and in person, yeah, he's got a lot of tabs open in his head too, I think. one of those. I'm the same way, Craig. That's out of love.
Oh, it's out of love. It's out of love. Yes, I'm about to call him up or shoot him a note after this to let him know that. Alex, how many tabs you got open? Our good friend Alex Cartmill joining us and just to share the clutter around his place. How many tabs you got open, dude?
I have 1 tab open right now.
Oh,
one single tab. I know. I'm one of those people. Well, you know, it's taken years of work, years of therapy to get there, you know, but when I see those messages, it's like your computer's running out of RAM, do something. And I only have 1 Chrome window open that just has about 35 tabs. I'm like, all right, this is a direct sign to take action on it. So I use Chrome. I use the tab groups. I don't know if y'all have ever ventured into that arena at all, where you can kind of have as many tabs in a group, and then you can close them all at once. So then you don't have to see it. Because that's, for me, I just don't want to see everything. You know, if I can see 4, that's fine. But if I have to see all 30.
Then I can have, so of that 30, all my things I don't want to forget about, Dad, going back to the previous episode, we talked about why you leave things out on your desk so you remember them. That's what my tabs are all doing. So I can take all 30 of my tabs that I need to keep open so I don't forget and put them away and name them, don't forget. And then boom. All right. Well, there we go.
Exactly. And then when you open it up, now we're back in the same situation of misery, but at least when you don't want to look at them, you don't have to see them.
A little bit of controlled chaos. Yeah.
Exactly. Except that's that old, the problem of something very important. I'm going to put someplace important, and then I forget where that important place is. So that, for me, that would be the it's not FOMO. I don't know what the hell that is.
I think it's just fear.
Just fear. Fear of screwing it up. That's not a good acronym, whatever that spells out to be. Fear of screwing it up. Because, yeah, how many times have I done that? I'm going to put this someplace important, that's out of my routine, by the way, because if it's in the routine, it's in the same place every time. But if it's out of my routine, I put it someplace important, there's probably a 50% chance I will forget where that important place is.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Such a good secret spot, That's how it gets.
Yeah, my girlfriend will move something around the house. She's like, and she objectively moved it to a better place, but there's that transition around. Well, it's not where not where I look for it, and not where I go to it every single day when I'm going. So it's immediately worse, no matter what.
Yep. It's been, look, those shoes have been on the floor in the corner of the room for 2 years. That's where they go. That's what's happened. All right.
Exactly. No, mine is my wallet. Hand my wallet to Miss Suzanne because she's going to go pay, close out the tab at the bar, right? And she comes back, hands me my wallet. Next day, I'm going buy gas, pull out my wallet. It's like, holy shit, where's my credit card? I've lost it. Oh my God! And I go into that moment of panic, and it's only because she put it in the wrong slot in the wallet. It's still in the wallet. It's just ain't in the right spot. So, when we start thinking about putting things in the right spot, what I'm curious about, Alex, is how you're helping your clients get in that right frame of mind. I mean, project management, yoga, Otis being me, I'm like, those are two left and right brains. So how are you getting a client to understand the benefits of both sides?
Yeah, it's well, I think they have different upsides, different advantages, and also different barriers to integrating them. And so I do come from I started my career in the health world, got a degree in kinesiology, had such a drive to make people healthier, help people live healthier life. That's kind of how I started my career. And then just very early on, I got into this place of running a business development program in that health world. And I was like, wow, this is, I like this a lot more. And I actually like this combination of, like you said, right brain, left brain of, there is a science and an art, I think, to a lot of different things. And same with project management, same with sort of that, even, data analysis, things that are a little bit more logistical and process oriented. There's still an art to that because you have to understand the challenges to actually integrating those things in the first place, and where a founder or a team may be already operating, and how can I meet them where they are so that we don't have to make an enormous change from where we are from a processes perspective, but we want to change our culture. And so we have to take one step in the other direction. So, even in the sort of, yes, it's very logistical and science, I think there's a bit of an art to actually making it work. And I think that's probably the same with health and wellness too. So, I think I try to understand where people are and understand our end goal. And I think that's kind of the science of it. And then what stepping stones do we have to lay out to actually get there, and what friction is going to be there. And, I think that's where kind of the art piece comes in. So I like to take each client, each individual, each team that I have as its own, situation, because that middle ground, those stepping stones are different for every single team and every single person. I work with a lot of founders as well. And like one of the founders I'm working with, the company I'm most involved with right now is called Vibrant Yoga. We're just a corporate and private wellness company, mostly out of Chicago. And Masha is the founder of that company. And, Masha is one founder I'm working with. I'm working with another founder named Jeff at another company. They're both in the health and wellness world. But they're completely different people. We have completely different team structures, and they're used to operating in different ways. They have different goals. And so even though I'm coming in and I'm implementing structure, and you certainly have a goal of making their lives easier and less stressed and improved business, outcomes, obviously, how I'm actually going about it is quite different. And the conversations I'm having with each of them are quite different. And I'm also a coach at heart too. So I think I kind of loop in sort of my coaching mind a little bit along those processes as well. But I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah. And talking about, using those different trains of thought, the left and right brain, that kind of thing there. I'd love to dive into how you handle shifting gears on that. Because that's one of those things, like, I think, me personally, I think I can bounce around pretty well on it, but also I can't bounce back and forth quickly. I can have my creative moment. I could talk about the story. I could go painting, whatever it is, right? And I can go have my creative moment over here, and then I can do the management stuff. But going from creative to management and back and forth is a really difficult shift usually. Could you talk some about, I think first how you handle that yourself, and then we could talk some about like as a leadership component as well.
Yeah, that is a really, really good question, because it's something that I've struggled with over the past decade of context switching. And where I'm at with, and I still feel like I'm certainly on the journey, but where I'm at with it now is I've struggled to processize, I don't know if that's a word, creative work. Like if I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down for 30 minutes and try to be creative. It's for me, at least in my personality, it's much harder to do that. That's where I'm like, that's akin to me lying in bed and saying, okay, I just need to go to sleep. I'm just going to go to sleep and I'm going to do it. And then really everything that ends up happening is just thinking about sleep and I'm not really doing anything. So instead, the balance that I've found is, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. No. The balance I've found is where systems, I think, come into play with creativity is that there should be mechanisms to capture the creative moments for the creative people or for anybody. For me, when I have an idea, that then it puts into a predictable place that when I'm back in my process mode, I haven't lost the idea. And whether that's, idea buckets in our content calendar, or whether that's like we have a tool that takes like our meeting notes and summaries and kicks out like creative content ideas. That's like, okay, when so we're not losing anything in that arena. So I think for me, when I have an idea, I need to share it and leave it in a place that I know, like we were talking about, won't get lost and is there when I need it. For me, I haven't tried, what actually kind of has worked. I do, use brainstorming calls and things of that nature. But even there, I found more of the open-ended, nature of it to be much more fruitful than trying to say, okay, we need to think of 6 ideas around this and 5 ideas around this. I've just really struggled, especially with teams as well. So it's where I've had more success is, okay, let's brainstorm asynchronously for a week or 10 days, however you want to do it. And then let's come to the meeting and discuss. So it's more of when I'm in process mode, that's what I'm doing. And I need to access the creative thoughts as they arose. And I need to have an easy bridge to like share the creative thoughts and get them into that predictable, system that it won't lose. That's kind of the balance that I've found with it.
And then taking that into like the leadership application, and my brain is only going one direction on this example, I think because we're talking about yoga and a yoga company, but be like, hey, it's all zen, everything's good, it's all awesome. And then you're over here like, hey, we need to balance the freaking checkbooks. And you need to do that right now because COB's coming up and all these kind of things. It's like, hey, like not really the energy I'm feeling right now, Alex. How do you manage that? Because that's a whole other variable there.
Yeah. And that is very, something I love about Vibrant Yoga is that, Masha, the whole team is very Zen like that, which I think is, I think there's a lot of lessons to glean from that from a personal perspective. But, so, for me, I think it's understanding boundaries of, hey, there's certain, if we want to run a business and we want our business to be centered around health and wellness and, employee wellness and yoga and things of that nature, that's great. But we still have to run a business and there's certain variables, there's certain pieces that need to be in place if we want to have this as a business versus a hobby or versus, even a side thing that is just maintained, which is completely fine, by the way. If it's something I like to help people do is what are we even striving for in the first place? And there's no right or wrong. But it's just honest conversations around, we still have to run a business. And part of that includes, we need to be sure our finances are in order. And here's what that looks like. And if there's something urgent and we need to talk about that. And then just kind of, if there's any gaps to fill or understanding gaps around, it's all roses and sunshine and we don't really have to pay attention to this stuff, then it's back to my coaching brain of like, listen, I'm happy to handle it. And I'm happy to lead the charge, but it's just something that we have to take side of. And then another goal of mine is understanding where the founders and leaders of these businesses kind of fit in so that I can use their knowledge or insight where it's valuable, but they don't have to own the outcome or own the process, but I'm still getting their insights and stuff that might be living in their head or, whatever it may be. So yeah, I think it's just transparency of when something urgent happens, it's a disservice to the business to ignore it and stay in that Zen mode. In fact, it's actually not Zen to ignore those things. That's an avoidance approach that is not as helpful.
Ooh, and calling them out, being a leader that's willing to call them out and say, "Hey, dude, I appreciate you wanting to kumbaya us out of trouble, but guess what? That ain't working. It's the client is pissed off because of X, Y, Z, and we got to do something right now. So if you ain't feeling it, well, then I ain't feeling paying you." That's
right.
That's the harsh approach, but sometimes you got to do that. And what comes to my mind and keeps coming back is, in a broader sense, the health and welfare of the team. Because what you do is you're doing a good job of touching on both, the systems and the processes and the health and welfare and integration. But, most business owners are looking at the numbers and they're not seeing an ROI on health and wellness of the team. People talk about it all the time. But they're not seeing it. How are you helping that CEO founder, go, yeah, that makes sense. We should add that, or we should change something up so that we are doing that. How are you helping them on that?
Yeah, it's such a good question. These are really good questions, by the way. So I'll take a step back because I think the first thing that we try to do to help leaders in that arena is educate and help them understand that the big, sticky, hairy problems that they've been trying to solve are also have a tie back to your employees' well-being, whether it's employee turnover, performance goals, revenue goals, internal culture and morale, things that are easier for us to say, well, if you're not hitting these numbers, that's a problem, right? It's it's an easier avenue for a leader to get to there versus us saying, well, you don't have any wellness initiatives in your company. That's a problem, right? And they're like, maybe, I don't know, maybe, maybe it is.
They're like, dude, we did $5 million last quarter. Like, that's not.
Yeah, they're like, what are you talking about? And nobody quit. So, we should be okay. And the thing is, if you, what's that?
I give them bonuses.
Yeah, exactly. I give them, we only have a 6-day work week. I give them bonuses. Nobody's told me, that they're miserable. So everything's fine.
Nobody complains to me. It's great.
Exactly. They're just terrified to say anything, but yes, exactly. Nobody complains. But I think it's a good point that in isolation, those things can happen. You can have a fantastic month and you think everything's perfect. But when you're just not paying attention to, and that paying attention can be checking in. That's a lot of what we, like, well, we don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. Well, we can certainly come in and help show you what has worked in the past, but you can also ask. It's sort of this novel concept that, we found is like, we didn't really think about that as like, one, you can show your folks that you care. And then you don't have to use that data as the end all and be all, but it's fuel to the fire. So anyway, I think the first step is like, hey, if every day, which by the way, this applies to the leaders too. Like if you running the company are waking up every day and running on overdrive, need to pound caffeine in order to function, crash midday, feel like you're just running on fumes consistently, don't know how to regulate your own emotions, your own self, that's going to be a huge issue with your decision making, how you show up every day in the company. And it's also going to trickle down to your team as well. So I think that the first step, the first kind of gap that we try to fill is that if your employees show up and you can show up every day, knowing what to do, aren't operating in fear, can feel confident that, your stakeholders and teams really care about what you're doing, that's going to have a huge impact on your performance. And then we track it. And once we start these wellness initiatives, we track both on how is the impact from the employee? Does it match up with what we were hoping to achieve? So as we go into it, we always try to unroot, what are you really trying to accomplish from this for your team? And if they don't know, then we need to figure it out. And a lot of people don't. And then once we start implementing these initiatives, whether it's a one-off or typically it's an ongoing, weekly, monthly thing, we're tracking that data in some way. Are we increasing these 4 markers that we wanted to increase with employees? And then we tie those back to bigger ROI numbers if we can. And it kind of depends on what they care about the most. But that's kind of the high level version, because a lot of people like I said, there's that disconnect between we're really struggling and morale is low, and we need better product market fit. We need a better system around this. It's like, oftentimes it's just pushing in on the same problem, and taking a step back and slowing down feels like a regression. But it's just often not the case.
I'm curious. This is a little bit more in the philosophical side of this, I guess, or the art side, not the science side. But talking about the ROI here, we've had these conversations for years on the show about different things around leadership and quality of work and those kind of things. That it's so tricky to measure. There's always new studies coming out that we can point to. Oh, look, they figured it out, but it's still very difficult to measure.
The latest Harvard Business Review says.
Exactly. Or that there were companies, and what was the one I was reading the other day? I think it was in the UK that they did an experiment, 150 companies that went to a 4-day work week and all these kind of things, right? And yeah, there's some data, and we can keep trying to get the data. Of course, that's people's jobs. But there's a part of me that has this feeling where you're not going to actually connect those dots ever. Where it's like, it's a little bit reminds me of like behavioral economics. There's kind of the joke around it of it's voodoo economics. It's voodoo, like so we're just going to give people the money and then that's going to fix it. All right, whatever. No, there's this kind of weird thing where it's like it doesn't make sense. There's a logical jump there, but then in application we seem to see the result. And I feel like there's almost a little bit of an approach to the ROI of your team's health. That's really like, you can find the ROI, but it's almost like stop trying to measure it and stop wasting the money trying to measure it and put that money somewhere else. You know what I mean? Well, sure. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Alex?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I mean, just in terms of the investment to measure it, it's not as much as you might think. I mean, like it doesn't have to be enormous measures in order to measure the impact, or at least to say, is this doing what we thought it would do? It doesn't, if you're already doing some kind of it doesn't have to add that much cost. But I think you're right about that. And I mean, I had a couple of thoughts around, like I almost equated it to attribution marketing, where it's like we try to tie back every sale to one distinct path that person took to buy the sale. And you're like, you know what? And you talk to them and they're like, I actually saw a blog 6 years ago and that's how I first heard of you. And that doesn't show up on there, and you're like, okay, well, so, but at the same time, even though we can't, like, it still led to the sale, and we still know that it's the right thing to do to be putting this content out here consistently, even though every single person that comes through the door, we don't know. And it might be a 5-year process that someone actually converts, So I kind of like, I was thinking about that a little bit as you were talking, and I saw some similarities of like, you're right. Let's say we have an amazing quarter and we did wellness initiatives that quarter, whatever. Can we say the wellness initiatives, caused the amazing quarter?
Well,
there's the lead.
Say that.
we could say that, right?
You're gonna run in there and say that.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, this is all us. I mean, we could, the reality is, if I'm being as objective as possible, that it probably does contribute. I mean, just think for yourself when you're showing up in a more free mind, how you operate and how you think and how you make decisions. But I'd also be lying, and hopefully Vibrant's not upset. But if I said we could say 100% that's because there is a gap between there. But I think about it like that. Whereas, oftentimes people know it's to their advantage to have, employees who are well and are operating at their best. And if we can measure that piece of it, that's kind of how I think about the gap of like, you know what? Yeah, we're not going to be able to one-to-one tie one individual's well-being to their performance. Although, I mean, maybe we could, but it's certainly a positive influence, on that, trajectory. So that's kind of how I think of it. But I think you're right. I mean, I think we also don't want to over-index on let's be intentional about measuring every single step of the way. We want to measure the big boulders. We want to measure the trajectory shifts. So I think you're right. I mean, I don't think we can ever tie everything back 100% one-to-one to that, but it certainly influences it positively. And I think in many cases there's more obvious, correlations and less obvious correlations, but I still think, it doesn't take away from the correlation.
Yeah. Well, my cynicism is coming out in the thought of, I got up and I did a badass workout this morning. Well, guess what I'm going to be doing about 10 o'clock in the morning? The adrenaline from the workout is worn off and and I'm into that mode. It's funny how that, cause there's your, like I said, cynical look at it of now I'm tired. But I wanted to bounce back to, you mentioned, and you touched on it again just a minute ago, but earlier you also mentioned the markers. Could you share with us some of those markers that you've helped clients identify to, measure that growth and success?
For sure. Yeah. Stress is one. So we do a lot of pre-survey stuff around like stress, mental clarity, pain and physical discomfort on a day-to-day basis, mood, it's a lot of self-reporting, self-assessment of let's get our baseline and then let's see how these are shifting. Those are the four we use, I believe. I don't think I'm forgetting one.
So nothing tied to client satisfaction or revenue growth or anything of that nature then?
So in terms of what we certainly want to tie, so we have our wellness markers and then we try to tie the wellness markers to to revenue, things of that nature. So that's really where those markers are going to vary by client. And depending on, what they're trying to gauge, are zoomed in markers. And are we saying, are these wellness initiatives doing what we want them to do in isolation? That's what we measure every single time. And then there is another step after that to say, well, let's also track your highest priority KPIs too, whatever those may be. And so we're always tying both, but those four are ones that we measure no matter what.
That's really interesting. 'Cause I'm thinking that the report, the quarterly report, if you will, back to the founder is, hey, look, Johnny was upset and stressed out when we started. Now he's happy, focused, enjoying, doesn't dread it, all those right words. And then the other question would be, so what does revenue look like? And
exactly.
And this is, I find this fascinating because, it's very similar to what we talk about with leadership. And, back to what you said, is there really a direct tie, the attribution marketing of it, if you will, that guy went through the program and you know what? Your company just lost 3 contracts. Now, is that because that guy is happy and less stressed out and something happened? Or is it something completely out of control? And I'd just be curious to discuss that thought line.
Yeah. I mean, I think just like something can go really well once we start working with a company, I think things can also go really poorly. Now, the likelihood in my mind that something goes really poorly because someone is happier and healthier and in more of a clear mind seems like that feels like a unlikely connection to me. Yeah. Now, I could think about if someone goes through a program like this, they start to have a clear mind and they think, I don't know.
What the hell am I doing here?
Yeah, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, now that feels.
I have had that happen with clients, by the way.
Have you?
That's to be fair. That's one of the things, and Alex, I'm sure you've seen this before too. But that's one of the things we talk about with our coaching. Of it's like you got to teach your team how to understand their purpose, and then there is a chance that they just kind of go off and go do that purpose somewhere else. Like that is part of the chance. Yeah.
Which is an immediate in isolation, immediate downside to the team. If you think we lost this employee who does this work for us, we're going to have to fill this gap. But I'd argue, and I'm curious what your guys' thoughts on this are, but I'd argue it's a net positive in the long term, because the path that person was on, and thus the company was on with that person, was probably reaching a dead end if that was the outcome of this work. And they realized, wow, I really don't want to be here anymore. I would argue from the outside that that's a positive thing. Is that kind of how you guys see it, or?
Oh yeah. In the larger picture, but if he's like VP of marketing or something like that, it hurts, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it happens. We all have those realization moments. Some people earlier than others, and some people more drastic than others. And it's like, yeah, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm walking away from it. There's books on the shelf behind me that are stories about that.
But I'd add an important layer to that. Let's take like the VP example there. Okay, your VP has this epiphany, and they decided they want to move along. You gave them the opportunity because you brought Alex in, and they came in and started doing yoga, and they had this epiphany. Well, now you helped them to reach that. You think they're going to screw you over? They're going to just cut out right away, go, hey, I quit, I'm not showing up anymore. Like, no, they're going to help you train the replacement because you're showing that you actually care about them. Going back to those like intangible things, that's the thing that I always go back to with that, is if you get it wrong, at the very least, and Otis winds up leaving to another company or retiring to go farm or whatever it is because he had this epiphany. Look, everyone else is going to see that and go, I helped him to grow as a person and to reach that point. And it shows I actually care about the people, not just the business. And I think all those intangibles that come along with it outweigh those short-term pains, even though it can definitely be very painful.
It's a really good point. And I also think there's probably a even higher likelihood that the epiphany, or if something in that arena does arise, or you really understand yourself better, you find new routines, or whatever it may be, also doesn't result in that individual saying, I want to leave the company. It's most likely an epiphany around how they're operating, how they view themselves, their habits, their routines. There's a lot of people who are functioning at a very, I don't want to say low level, but at a very stressed, strung out level. And it's just their baseline now. So a lot of people realize, holy crap, I didn't even realize that I was operating at this hyper stressed out place on a daily basis. It's just what I've been doing for 15 years. And it's just what everyone else does in my life too. So I would, in our experience, those epiphanies are much more individual. And if it could happen though, where they say, you know what, I need to go do something. It's not the norm. And to finish answering your question, Otis, around if we start and they have an awful quarter or whatever it may be, it's not often tied back to the work that we do. We don't, the reality is, and with a lot of health things too, is that, I'm going back to my personal training days, but the results aren't instant either. Oftentimes, of course, you can feel a lot better after a 30-minute guided, session, whether it's yoga or meditation or self massage or whatever it may be. You feel better in that moment, and that's instantaneous, but the outcomes of the compounding effect of all that is often lagging versus instant. So now if folks are more stressed, if performance is getting worse, and we're talking over the course of multiple quarters, months, we would pivot before that if we're noticing those 4 markers I mentioned aren't moving in the right direction. We would be pivoting after the first sign of that. We don't, it's not something that happens often in my experience. I've also only been at Vibrant Yoga for 7 months now. So, I haven't had the widest of viewpoints, but it's not the most common occurrence.
Well, and sometimes it's something completely out of your control. I mean, I'll use a client of ours that they got doged. I mean,
yeah, right.
Those sort of things happen. I mean, and even if you're not a government contractor or work in the federal government, which is usually a very steady state world. But you know what? That also happens in smaller businesses where you've got clients and other folks, and your number one client decides, you know what? I'm done. And that happens. You see it happen down the street all the time with mom and pop shops.
For sure.
What opens the door for you in this world of understanding the processes, making the team healthy, mental and mental and physical focus on that.
When you say opens the door, what do you mean exactly?
I mean, you call up Joe and, hey, dude, I got some yoga stuff I want to give you, and it's going to make your company better.
Got
I
it.
was going to say, Dad, to translate, hit the sales pitch, Alex.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
No,
basically.
Yeah, I mean, it is a lot of back of what I first said of like the initial grab. So it's two. One is if they experience something with us, that is where we get a lot of our clients. So referrals are enormous. Like I said, we have our monthly kind of free wellness sessions. The next one is September 25th, that we do. And if they sit in, like we get, we do workshops for companies that are really good. They're like part education. They're part, like actually let's do some chair yoga. They're part, like, let's show you how to do these things yourself. They're part, self-awareness, identifying your stressors, identifying your goals for these types of things. And other leaders within those companies will say, hey, you did this for your team, their team, the feedback was great. Can you do it for our team? Like that avenue is very common for us. Or we do a lot of, like events. Like we will be at Shop Talk Fall in Chicago, giving out chair massages to employees. So like if they can experience firsthand, oftentimes the immediate outcome of what we do, that avenue is very strong for us. And then when we can tie it back with, if they know that they're running a company where their employees are stressed and performance isn't doing well, and they've experienced something from us, that's we have to do very little selling. If one of those boxes is not checked, we try to check one of those boxes or all of those boxes ideally. And oftentimes, I mean, it takes a lot of different touch points for those boxes to be checked, which is why I say the referrals are really strong for us because of, again, once you experience it and you see what it does to the team, there's the education is just, you don't need it as much. So yeah, it's those few things. And, a lot of our content, a lot of our newsletter is trying to tie back those big goals that you have as a business leader to the health of yourself and your employees. That's probably the most challenging box, or a lot of effort we put into educating that avenue. That's probably the biggest one that we try to open the eyes of leaders with.
This is kind of outside of those touchstones that you're talking about there as far as framing, which y'all do. But I'm really curious because one of the things we see, like you mentioned earlier, that we have very similar angles on the market there in a lot of ways. One of the things that I've seen a lot, and I'm sure you've seen also, Alex, is this. I always use the example of, it's like, I don't want to buy physical therapy. Just wait till my shoulder goes out and I'll get the surgery. And it's like we talked about our fake example earlier. Nobody complains to me. Nobody's quit. Why? Well, nothing's wrong. And it's like, well, no, but everyone's going to quit quit in 6 months. You don't understand that. Like in those kind of things where it's like where the preventative care is really, really hard to get people to spend money on versus that surgical intervention. What's your, without just saying, give me another sales pitch, but what's your thought on hammering home that point of the preventative care rather than waiting till the house is on fire?
Well, I think it's, so it's twofold. One is if there's existing, you guys familiar with the jobs to be done theory at all? And the four forces, the push, pull, habit, anxiety. So if there's no pushes or pulls that are, driving someone to have a problem, they're probably not even going to be thinking about, working with us. That's the reality. We still think it's valuable for them, depending on, their situation. But, if they, so I think that's that. And if they, I just lost my train of thought.
Well, what was jumping into me, maybe this will reduce it for you, is, if the leader that you're happen to be introduced to doesn't have a personal issue, then he's likely not going to recognize an issue in the team. And I think that's part of matter of fact, much earlier in the show, I wrote down firing clients and pre-firing clients, the pre-firing is back to the sales thing and, your funnel and selecting who your clients are. I wonder how much of that comes into play because Johnny on my team, my lead sales guy that's dealing with stress, life stress, job stress, family life, blah, blah, blah. And he walks around like this because he's so stressed out. Mm-hmm. Am I, as the founder, gonna say, ooh, I need to give Alex a call because you know what? Look at me. Woo, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Well, what's wrong with Johnny? He has no neck.
That's where it's hard because you're as the leader walking around. They're like, I live for this shit. They're like, oh my God, this is what I'm here for.
Which is back to the leader has to look at that and understand in 6 months, the house is going to burn down, like you said, Cam. But, they're 100% part of our education is, are you, as you, the leader, are you operating at your best? Do you believe the impact of stress and fear on performance? Because then if you're able to recognize the signs of stress, or you're able to recognize, hey, or even if you're just able to recognize this person's consistently missing deadlines, this person is getting increasingly quieter and quieter when, at their work, their output is slowly not hitting it. Like, is the mindset, we need to put this person on a PIP? Or is the mindset, we need to see what's going on with this person and try to help them? And again, it's that, who knows what the answer will be out of the end of that conversation. But yes, 100%, I think that plays a role of if a leader's not completely not able to recognize the signs of burnout or even non-optimal performance, and at least explore the area of, are my employees operating at the highest level? Are they not operating in fear? Then they are just missing an area of opportunity. And it's not to say that that's guaranteed to be what it is, but it's certainly more fruitful to add that into the conversation than just saying, well, we got to double down. We got to push on this. This isn't acceptable. We need to do this and that. And again, we're just pushing on the same problem. But for sure, it does start with that understanding with the leader. And in our experience, a lot of times is when we can get leaders to, because like you said, Cam, I live for this shit. Like then this is how I've been operating. This is how I do it. If sometimes when we can get them to take one little step down this like reflection and calm and clarity journey, they're like, this is how I've been operating for 15 years. And like, there's almost this, I didn't realize that I wasn't at my best because I was maximizing what I could within this place for so long that I didn't even know there was another, place that I could get to. I didn't know I thought I was at maximum calmness or maximum clarity or whatever it may be when I'm operating, or the lowest ego or the lowest fear that I have. But, then once you pause that like constant race, the constant hamster wheel, and just sit for a sec and notice, you're like, oh, I could be more sharp, or whatever it may be.
I'm curious, talking about like the preventative care versus, the house burning down, surgical intervention, that type of stuff. I want to have some fun with this, Alex. What would the surgical intervention be on y'all's side? It is terrible. We got a like magic wand. We could shut down the business and do yoga for a month. Or what does that extreme look like? Because I think it paints an interesting picture of the mechanism when you talk about that big magic wand solution.
Yeah, like if we were to come into a company and kind of say, hey, y'all need so much help on the regulation stress front or whatever it may be, like what's kind of the maximum work that we would do?
Google called you and said, hey, we've been losing 10% of people every month for the last 2 years and the turnover's crazy. We can't hire all this kind of stuff. We need yoga. There you go.
Perfect. We'd say, when can you start? No. Well, I mean, I think the surgical intervention, I think, is us coming in to say, hey, you need to understand, like, we need to give you, the individual, the leader, the employee, whatever, the tools to recognize this stuff within yourself, to know that when you're veering off of your path or not, and also tools to help self-correct as well. Like we do have a goal, of course, of we want to come in and help, but we don't want you to necessarily, the only time that wellness is prioritized or the only time you feel like you have the tools to promote your own wellness or whatever is when we're there physically or virtually. And so I think it would start with, okay, let's educate around what peak performance looks like from a stress perspective. Let's educate that all stress is not bad, how to regulate yourself. Like I think the surgical intervention is giving them the tools to do it and then providing them the pathway to actually developing those tools over the course of, months, sometimes years it takes, of us coming in and saying, okay, we have, weekly, monthly sessions around this. Maybe we break out and do different sessions for different types of people that need a little bit different, messaging around what wellness is for them. We've broken off into different teams before of like, okay, we're working with the accounting team or the people who are sitting all day. Like they might need a little bit different of a wellness approach than someone out in the field. So, we'll do things like that. But I think the big step would be learning how to operate this yourself. I mean, a little bit like therapy, where I was like, when I started therapy, the goal was, I don't want therapy forever. Like I want each session, I want to take away tools and something that I can plant into my habits and my ongoing way of thinking and my ongoing life, even if it's one small shift of, I'm going to wake up an hour earlier or whatever, maybe. Okay, great. Let's build that habit. And then once that's locked into place, I'm going to focus on the next habit. We try to impart those, pieces to individuals as well, so that you're building these individual skills around it.
Yeah, I think you just reminded me of something I think is so important, because when you do that, you're creating the discipleship of it.
Right.
It's a very similar thing that we talk about is, a true measure of a great leader is not how great he is, it's how great the leaders he creates are. Mm-hmm. And exactly. That discipleship is really how you truly make that impact and create that legacy. I think that's exactly when you're making that impact in the organization, and that those individuals are the ones who carry it on and adopt those practices. That's the impact that and goes on. And it's really how you change. The impact that I got out of today and what I learned. I was loving. I keep going back to the attribution marketing, but I'm gonna shift it a little bit and call what you do and what we do at Tribe and Purpose attribution actions. Mm-hmm. Because that's what everybody wants. They want to have that direct line back to, well, I showed them how to write a plan. And, so because I showed them how to write a plan, that proposal that was written 3 years later we want it. Right. That's the sort of attribution actions that we all crave, but is really an unrealistic chain of events. So that's what I learned. Camden, how about you? What'd you learn?
Well, I learned that when I go out to practice tonight and I'm working on those basic tackle techs, that's going to be how we win all of our games in the spring is going to be that drill I do tonight. So I'm really, really good to have.
Hey, Sean, you hear that? It's all because of Camden's tackle techniques today.
I love it. But no, the thing that came to mind is talking early on, Alex, about like shifting gears back and forth and, meeting people where they are with that. What came to mind is this, like, it's kind of like a funny, like parenting, like toddler example of like, Alex, we got to leave the park. Do you want to leave in 5 minutes or 10 minutes? And it's like, oh, okay, I'll leave in 10 minutes. It's like, okay, fine. It's like, but I just got him to make a choice to go leave. And it's like when you need somebody to do something, sometimes those real basic things of, hey, Alex, when do you want to file that report? You want to do that tomorrow? Awesome. We can do that tomorrow. And it's like, it gives them and still pushes it forward, but gives people that choice to where, you're not completely throwing them out of whack, taking them out of their system, all those kind of things there. So yeah, sometimes that, the toddler parenting approach can be useful.
Exactly.
You got to get good at that, Cam.
I'm working on it.
Alex,
which is actually,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's actually, I work with the early childhood development specialist who in speaking with kids at that age, there's actually, it's the same, like you should take the same approach in often ways. Be clear, set the boundaries, understand what you want to say as clear as possible and just say it as clear. There totally is a lot of,
I've brought it up a bunch of out with Engage Foundation coaching like the little kids of it's like, because you can't use any jargon. You got to explain everything at this super basic level. And if you can learn those communication skills and apply them to other people, people are going to start understanding you a lot better, huh, Alex?
A lot. Yeah.
Alex, how about you, man? What'd you learn?
What did I learn? I really like the attribution actions framing there. That was one takeaway. I think I also learned during this conversation, just luck and timing plays a role in business. I know we didn't really directly talk about it, but it kept sort of floating around the back of my mind around like, well, what if something really good happens? What if something really bad happens? The attribution, piece of it is like a lot of business success is giving yourself opportunities to get lucky and have the timing work in your favor and do the small daily actions that add up. It was just in the back of my mind, sort of as we were talking about that, that you can't control every single outcome, that happens in a business. And I think it's advantageous to have tunnel vision to control what you can and not spend too much time trying to tie back what you can't control to something explainable. That's a big takeaway for me from today.
Awesome. Alex, how do folks find you? Sign up for that. I think you said the 25th of September, the next free online clinic you're running.
Yes. So that's through Vibrant Yoga. So Vibrant.Yoga is just our website there. And you can feel free to reach me personally as well at Alex@Vibrant.Yoga if you ever want to reach out. And also find us on Instagram, Vibrant Yoga, and Facebook and all the stuff there. And then, me personally, you can find me at AlexCartmill.com, just as my personal operator business. So.
Awesome. Alex, been a lot of fun and truly enjoyed learning from you today. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks so much, guys.
Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank y'all for listening to today's episode of 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. And a special thanks to our guest, Alex Cartmill, for joining us today. Remember, you can watch full episodes of the show on YouTube at 10X Your Team. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to pass it along to other lifelong learners in your tribe so they can enjoy it too. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, that full archive of episodes available at www.10xyourteam.net. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next time.